June meetup of the .NET Community Austria, presented by .NET Devs AT. So, thank you for joining. So, slides don't work. So that's too fast. So, thank you for joining us and not watching the soccer game, football game, and not enjoying beer in the hot sun. So we are .NET Devs Austria. We a community to support .NET developers in Austria. You find us on our homepage, on Twitter. Also, you watch it today on Twitch or YouTube. And we also have a Slack channel to where you can chat with us and have a discussion of our topics during the day where all developers of Austria, .NET developers of Austria can chat. So these slides don't change. So, and also thanks to our sponsors. Without the sponsors, we can't make this event happen. And so, who are our sponsors? So, first, OES Software Service, one of our sponsors, Data Everywhere, Rubicon and JetBrains, and very special thanks to Microsoft, who sponsor this meetup that we can make the stream and everything else. So, news from the community. We are now a member of the .NET Foundation. What this means, you find us in the .NET Foundation virtual user group, where the .NET Foundation collect all meetups around the world, and now you find also us. And now the topic of the day is the Microsoft Build, the after conference talk show, where I have some guests today. And now I will introduce my guests. First of all, so now they pop off. First, Alex, may you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Alex. I'm working on the .NET Runtime Core BCL team, basically related to all the mobile workloads, so what you know as Xamarin, and also integrating some MS Build stuff related to that into the .NET Core SDK.
Thank you. And our second guest is Igor. Please go some words.
Yep. Hi everyone. So I'm Igor. I work as an architect at AVL List, an Austrian company, and also as an independent consultant for GUID New. And what I'm especially proud about, we also have a .NET Foundation sponsored group in Graz as well. So also together with Bernd, I also organized that meetup.
Okay, thank you. And now my colleague Martin Ulrich from .NET Devs Austria.
Yes, hi. So I'm Martin. I work for Tito Every as a consultant. And yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Now I'm Rolzer. I work for Tech Talk in Vienna. I'm also a software developer in the .NET community. So I think 1 month ago the build was held from Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
First question in the audience in view 3. How do you think the conference was overall? So the overall impression.
Who should start, guys? Feel free. Or yeah, since I'm not the only one who's not muted, I would say the boring as always. Build is a build. I mean, always perfectly organized. Always a bit what's gonna happen, but still when it happens, it's always interesting to see. and always this aftertaste of so much I've seen, the things I was particularly interested in, and so much is there in other areas. Like I still want to a bit go through and at least to have an overview. But all in all, we will discuss it, I guess, in details. I'm also very interested in the opinions. There are things I'm really thrilled about when it comes to the content, and also the things I'm a bit confused about. So more or less like our FT build, every build. But the conference, of course, it was perfect. Yeah.
And Alex, can you say something?
Yeah. So for me, because I'm both on the inside and on the outside, for me it's always a bit interesting to actually see all of the things that we've been working on for like months or even a year come together and actually like work. So once you're working on stuff, you always see all the things that don't work, but it's nice to when it actually works in like a demo or users can try it out. So that's really exciting. So, and I also sometimes learn about some new product announcements that I didn't know of even internally. So that's always nice too.
Mm-hmm.
So you're sitting there with shot glasses for every demo that works, or?
No.
There was a tweet from one of the C# developers saying exactly that, like watching the build and saying, "Wow, it's so good to see it shipped." Actually, no, that was the .NET conference, not the build. The build is still cooking phase.
Yeah. Hopefully by .NET Conf it works perfectly. So.
Hopefully.
So thank you. So because we are the .NET community, there are some news about .NET 6 and C# 10. Igor, you have something prepared, or what's your
something? Yeah, I mean the things I'm like. I mean, I have a lot. I don't know. Let's say I don't want to hijack the whole thing, or rather to discuss. I have quite a few things to show. At least those I'm very interested in. So .NET 6, like in general, like all those things in the background, performance and everything. Wow, great. What I like particularly, like this new stuff coming. Maui is finally there. All those enhancements in the Blazor area. I guess we will discuss a bit later into details. There are some tiny things I love personally. Maybe I can show here at least this minimal APIs. I don't know, but these are the kind of things I'm really inclined to.
Yes.
And just to from the API start, I guess I can share my screen, then you will understand why I'm that thrilled about it. I don't know how many people in the community heard about Nancy FX. Let me put it there and share my screen. Let me know if you can see it. Yeah, a project not that well known, but it was one of my favorite projects. So you could really build very quickly. You could build a simple API. Somehow I love this simplicity, and I was always somewhere. Every once in a while I would have a need for something like that, and then going through all this, like typical .NET MVC stuff with a lot of boilerplate, boring. But still, even for Nancy, you have a plenty of boilerplate around it. And seeing this, but only better, coming to .NET and being officially supported, I'm talking at the minimal API. I definitely want to show it. Yes, this is the example. Hope you can see the code. I don't know, this kind of simplicity is simply because I'm the one who likes also playing with the things and so on. This is a fully running, literally hello world, web server in a couple of lines of code. Maybe later when we come to the C# topics, we'll explain where the magic comes from. But these kind of things with enhanced lambdas and so on to have a quick start. I will miss Nancy, I have to say, Nancy FX, but this is something I'm definitely jumping on. That's a new stuff. The Maui and so on we'll discuss. Guess more detail later
exactly
on.
What that is a, it's a bit of a pain when you teach C# and ASP.NET, and for example, I teach a course where I actually teach more front-end stuff, and then it's okay, let's build a simple backend with like an API and then a database, and then you have to explain, okay, what is this program file? Why are there two methods in there? What is the startup class? What is this controller that I need to create? So you have like 3 classes already for an empty API.
empty
So
API,
I'm
yeah.
really looking forward to using this.
Especially for teaching. I mean, when we come to the language as well, like this entry barrier into the language, simply starting writing code in C# is, I guess, very, very low now. I have an example for that as well, but maybe later when we speak about C#. But I also want to say I like the general direction where the things are going. This, like, simplification. Talking about this, I will not go into detail. This is a really very, very simple Hello World app. But this philosophy, I can come from this to a more complex one, adding the configuration and so on if I want. And there is a promise, at least it was given a build, that there will be also tooling to move that to full MVC once it's grown enough. And this iterative approach and like very low entry barrier and so on, I see it as a very good direction. So I like it. Maybe this was something I was thrilled about, but I want to spend too much time on it. In general, that's the .NET, but the other topics I would like to go into more detail, especially since we have also Xamarin Expert and so on. The whole UI stuff is also very exciting. Maybe general thing. I mentioned performance, also very important for me. And together with the performance, how to move to all that. If I may show another one thing, which I definitely think it's the right direction, the tool I bet on. If you're starting something new, start with .NET 6. That's a, let's say, a clear thing. We have, for example, like there was an information that the Bing, the search engine, already moved certain things in production to .NET 6 previews to gain the performance benefits. But for me, this question of porting the existing stuff to .NET 6 was also always challenging in consultancy. And I'm really, really thrilled with this little thing. Let me just put it there. The upgrade assistance. So there were tools before, still are to see which API do you use, what's supported, what's not. But putting it into a tool which does certain things automatically, and you still have to do something manually, where you have the clear steps. I bet on this, and I hope it will get better and better over time. Just to give you an idea, I have here this standard Microsoft example, the eShop on web, and it's a .NET 3.1, I think. And I'm starting the upgrade assistance just that you get an idea. So what's going to happen? I will get literally like these steps, like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a long list even for a simple application. What to do? Certain things are automated. Certain things you have to do manually. But this kind of like a checklist, which is not more somewhere on the documentation page, that's supported by tooling. I'm definitely looking forward to this, and I hope that the community will also jump on.
I remember previously you only had this Visual Studio upgrade assistant, and it was like you hit run and you hope that it works. And if it doesn't work, you're left with the backups. But this one actually explains what the things do.
Yeah.
So that's very, very nice.
I see it also
on the command line, which is very nice.
Yes. Yeah. I see it at least for some certain cases I witnessed as a potential game changer. It's not a trivial thing, I remember once a team who lost literally a week going from one error to another because they didn't read the documentation for the update from 2.0 to 3.0, which was a huge step. So and yeah, just wanted to say that. So around the .NET framework, let's say performance, this new stuff coming. And these kind of toolings make me happy.
Nice. So, Alex, do you have something to say to .NET 6 frameworks?
You mean, well, there have been like thousands and thousands of improvements in .NET 6. So if you are interested about like a high-level overview, there are a couple blog posts on the .NET blog that go into like multiple pages of details about all the improvements that went into .NET 6. So not just performance, but also new APIs, new features, or also some little breaking changes, but not too much. So yeah, if you're interested in those, definitely check out the blog post.
Even today, I came across an instance where, oh yes, this .NET 6 API would be good to use now. So like things like date only and time only APIs.
Small
where you don't have to mess with time zones screwing up your dates and things we always have troubles with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the runtime now is coming to completion, runtime merge.
Yes, so we are on the .NET Runtime main branch. We are already on preview 7. So the preview 6 that will ship in some time, that's already branched for us. So we would need to backport any changes that still make it to that release. And in not a long time from now, we will actually branch for .NET 7. So yeah, we're always a couple weeks or months ahead of the public .NET SDK release, because we're like literally at the bottom of the stack. So any changes like that we make need to be propagated up the stack and make sure it doesn't break like ASP.NET Core or Visual Studio or anything like that. So yeah, I'm always living a little bit in the future.
Good, but thanks for sharing the good news. Well,
Yeah.
you're that far. Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you can also go to the github.com.net/installer repository and download nightly builds of the .NET SDK. So basically any change that goes into .NET Runtime automatically gets included in the next nightly build. So you can also, if you have, for example, if you have a PR that you contributed to .NET Runtime, a few days later it should show up in the nightly build. So you don't need to wait for any public official stable preview thing.
That's nice.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm personally very excited about Maui, bringing together all the things. I actually today discovered, Swift also added async await to their language, but only on iOS 15. So with Maui you can run async await in C# on any supported iOS and Android devices. So more language features.
Cool. This sounded as a commercial.
Or anything, but yes, shipping a runtime in an app is also has some upsides.
Tell me from Maui, what exactly is this? The MVU stuff, the new or just the portability? What's exactly what makes you attached to the thing?
So for our case, we have a few Xamarin applications, also some mobile applications. We're actually looking into for a project that we are about to start maybe in the next month or so. We may actually start with Maui previews instead of starting with Xamarin and migrating. But for example, we also have some UWP applications where, for example, we're stuck on Entity Framework 2.1 because it runs on Net Standard 2.0. And I believe the newer Entity Framework versions are Net Core App and Net 5 and Net 6, and we can't run that on UWP. And so we will need to migrate to something newer. So, and now Maui, with the integration for Project Reunion, which apparently was renamed, is very appealing. So now that we have one SDK to build Windows apps with, the Windows App SDK, which apparently is also going to be the basis for Windows 11 development. So I'm excited for that. To be fair, I'm also happy that WPF was ported to
It's still there
as well, because as fun as Windows Store and UWP development has been at times, I believe WPF and also WinForms has proven to be a very stable environment where things work conceptually and it's very easy to port apps. But now with Maui, I'm also happy that there are a bit more modern approaches to application development. Just even from starting with a DI setup that is reminiscent of ASP.NET Core or work applications, where you have a host setup.
Host, the host and so on. If I may say between the lines, so Maui would be your choice for desktop development in the future. If you're starting something new, or the scenarios which you mentioned where you actually want to port the existing stuff. I'm curious, particularly for the desktop development, because here for me always ever since the WPF started to seize a bit this clear answer, like, hey, if I'm starting a new desktop development, I mean, people still do that nowadays. I know everything goes web, but yes, I mean, a lot of people still do new desktop development. So would Maui be like your choice, your definite choice for a new desktop development?
So I'd have to say for me, yes. Mostly because we are mostly in a .NET environment where we have a lot of like libraries, also domain specific code that we already have as .NET in .NET, and so either Blazor applications that maybe could run in something like an Electron shell, or Maui applications, I think, are a very appealing choice here. Even for the option to deploy on like Mac with the macOS Catalyst bridge. Even though I'm certain that just turning that on and doing nothing else won't be the best experience for those users, but at least it's a way forward. And we're not locked into a single platform like UWP or maybe some Windows controls. And also since Maui has a bit more flexible and for me more intuitive or more understandable rendering setup, where it's more I think it's a bit easier, or it looks like the entry barrier to also writing custom controls and renderers is a bit reduced from what I remember this being in Xamarin like 2 or 3 versions ago.
What about Linux support? I guess it's not in your use case. Why I'm asking, like, this is a part of the framework where I'm still somehow. Yes, you said there is appealing choice, so still there is a choice between, like, let's say Blazor desktop apps and Maui, let's say. But again, it's multi-platform, but not fully. Like Linux is not supported. Yeah. So if I have this use case, what should I do? Like Avalon or whatever. Still some loops in there. This is a part which is where I'm still like, when are we going to fix this? All this desktop everywhere stuff.
Linux is a bit complicated, I think, also for like C++ development. So you also locking yourself into one of the UI libraries, if it's GTK or something else.
The reason why it's not supported, it's clear.
But I think the community will support Linux Maui projects and forks and extensions.
Yep. I'm confident Miguel Licasa will write a console renderer.
That's a hobby project, yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
So
now that we have all these features in .NET, right? So from what I understand, not all of them are installed by default, right? So I don't have a like 10 gigabyte .NET SDK download.
Right.
And I think Alex, you wanted to show us how that works.
Sure.
Yeah. So basically, the problem we faced when we were about to add Xamarin and the WebAssembly AOT or toolchain was that those are pretty huge. So if we just followed basically what we have done with ASP.NET Core or WinForms or WPF, where they basically just ship inside of the .NET SDK, that would mean like the .NET SDK would be 5 gigabytes to download, which is not really great if you do not care about Android and iOS, or if you're just writing a Windows app. So what we came up with is kind of like a package manager for the .NET tool chains. So there's this .NET workload command. Actually, let me share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so there's the .NET workload command, and right now there are basically 2 important commands. There's .NET workload install and .NET workload list. So .NET workload list shows you all the workloads that are installed. In my case, I have the Android workload and the iOS workload. And we probably will simplify the name so that you can just do .NET workload install Android, and it would go to the internet and download just the Android workload. Right now you have this a little bit more longer name. But what this does is it goes to NuGet.org and downloads all the pieces and MS Build targets and stuff that you need to build either an Android or an iOS application, and it installs it into your .NET SDK. So it's not like a NuGet package that is inside of your NuGet package cache, but it is actually installed into your .NET SDK. And that means
similar to what Visual Studio has for like these workloads.
Right. So that's basically where the concept comes from. And the Visual Studio installer also like is integrated into that. So if you in the Visual Studio installer, if you click the mobile workload or the ASP.NET WebAssembly workload, it would just in the background download these .NET workloads so that you can then use them from the command line as well. So the idea is that basically you can do everything from the command line. You just make a small test app, and then you do .NET new Android, for example, and it would create your Android application. So you have your Android manifest, your activity, and the main CS Proj file, which is with .NET 6, it's like the simple SDK style project format now, which is really nice for Android applications. And then you just do .NET Build like you would do for any console application, and in the end, you will get your Android application out of that. So everything is basically contained in the .NET workload, and you do not need to like mess with some separate installers or anything like that.
That's great.
So that's
now that I see it as a personal interest, so the .NET 6 SDK will be based on MS Build 17.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, it basically, let me see, it's built. Yeah, it basically bundles the latest MS Build from like the .NET MS Build repository.
So the same versions that are in Visual Studio 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
That's great.
Speaking of that, please, Rob.
Yeah. So and one thing we are thinking of is not just doing this for Xamarin, Android, and iOS, but in the future potentially also for other project types. For example, for the WinForms, WPF, even ASP.NET Core, is in the end the ideal .NET SDK install would be very minimal, and everything you need on top of that you would add on top with the .NET workload install. So it's easier to install on, for example, a CI server or some minimal build system that doesn't need anything you do not care about. But this will not happen in .NET 6. It's probably something for .NET 7.
But is there already sorry, Martin.
Yeah, I still remember that there are, for example, the Windows desktop targets. I believe they are in the main installers that you use to install the .NET SDKs.
Yes.
But if you go and download some builds of the SDK, it's not there, and then you need to figure out how to get these in. So that looks like a very good mechanism. And Igor, I'm sorry to...
No, definitely. Alex, if I got you right, so this is the direction. It's going to happen. Not with .NET 6, but it's going to happen. Slicing the things down, choosing what you need, and so on. Perfect. Yeah.
That's the idea.
Yeah, I was playing with the command line to install a Visual Studio with the workloads and so on. Like it is possible actually, but you don't wanna do it from just to have it and setting up a new environment and so on. And again, having this like a simple command line listing what you need, perfect. Yeah.
I think it helps to start project with new environments or change the project environment. So I have a project where I have to work with Android, then I only installed the workload for Android, and then I changed the project, deinstalled everything, and then installed the VPF or the ASP.NET Core workload, so I can have my hard drive not so fast growing.
Yeah.
This is also for me a change. For example, when I install Visual Studio, it's always that. Okay, I know I will not need this for the next 3 months, but still I don't want to, like go again through the whole process and looking with the right eye on the bottom. Okay, oh, this is a couple of gigabytes more. Okay, then let's check everything. This idea that it's a command line and it's done. No, perfect, definitely.
And we're having a question about this. So Flashover asks, I hope worklets can be a repository field via global JSON or something similar. So I guess the question is, if I have a repository, do I have a way of specifying my repository needs these workloads?
No, because that's actually done. So the way it works is that the .NET SDK itself has a very small MS-build target file that lists all of the possible workloads for a specific target framework moniker. So if, for example, if your project specifies net6-Android, then the .NET SDK knows it will need the Android workload, even though it doesn't ship with the .NET SDK. And if you try to build such a project, it would say, I do not have the Android workload installed. Please type .NET workload install. And in the future, we hopefully will also have like a .NET workload restore or some command where you can basically get all the workloads that your project needs. So that's, but in principle, the project itself knows that it needs additional workloads and tells you to get them.
But I see the great question again. This is exactly this: how to remove these barriers for a team. Like you have a new team member. I have stories where you needed 2 days to set up everything you need, and you have to pull a developer, another to copy something to some machine. Good old days. But I can see even with this, which you demonstrated, having a PS1 file, just downloading the workflow, it's fine for the beginning, even without not having workflow restore. But looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yes. I know what you mean, like onboarding people, and you have to select these things in the Visual Studio installer.
In the Visual Studio, and and if really, when I think where the productivity really like disappears and this kind of stuff, it doesn't build. Why? Oh, you forgot to install something. That's why I like to keep like all of this when I have a new machinery to set up the things from the command line.
And now I believe Winget is also nearing 1.0 or has reached 1.0. So I believe in newer builds it will just appear. So we now have a version of Chocolatey that's built by Microsoft.
Let's see if I'm going to migrate. Like my stuff is at the moment 100% like Chocolatey. So let's see. But speaking about the tooling, how do you see the new Visual Studio, the 22? Things coming really from this part.
I actually installed it already. It works quite well. I'm personally very excited about the 64-bit stuff, right? So I've been working with a few large solutions in the past, and I've actually switched to using JetBrains Rider because Visual Studio was just not able to work with that project anymore. Mostly, so it has gotten better. So I believe if that was like Visual Studio 2015 or so, I would have not be able to work at it at all. But if I want to have still ReSharper, some more plugins, some syntax highlighting plugins, all in one process, I believe that was just a bit too much. And so at least for that project, it worked better in 2022. So I'm actually very excited for that.
Okay, so you tried really on this huge project, solution. Cool. Yeah.
I also installed it already. The first start was a crash in the project. So it's a little bit early to preview. But now I think as the second update comes for the preview, and now it works a little bit better. And so So it's always for my private project. I use it now to play around with .NET 6 and other stuff.
Yeah, Lyle was asking me this morning, should I update to Windows 11 before the meetup?
Yeah,
No?
No.
I have it in my
Bad
update.
idea. One thing is, of course, 64-bit. Like, definitely. I still didn't try like on huge solutions and so on. Like the largest one I have, which is like my reference solution is like a 300 project something. So it would be interesting to see. But other things as well. I primarily started to play with C#10. Like, this is okay. I have a toy now. I can play with it. But other things, if you try coding, like IntelliCode, if you've seen how it looks like, how it's coming to that, even this version of IntelliCode in 2019 surprised me a couple of times. Like, really, like, okay, somebody's spying on me, like reading my mind. I did forget that, like editing some lines in code, and then suddenly something pops up. Like, what's this? Oh, I really forgot it. There were a couple of moments. And now when you see like prominent, when you start typing and getting those larger lines of code proposed, wow, like this, going into like this AI assisted editing, I see it promising, really. Yeah. One thing which I liked, and then definitely when it comes to tooling, the hot reload stuff. That's the,
Yes.
I mean,
Now it works very good, the hot reload. I think so always when I had to work in an old project and as the .NET Forms project, and I want to change one line in the code, and I have to stop the debugging, change it, start the debugging, build all the stuff. And now with the hot reload in the current Visual Studio and also in the next versions, it's so fast. I change the code and just appears, and not even on websites. So I don't have such big project, but in the developer keynote, Abel Wang shows in a Minecraft clone how you can change code, and it changed with hot reload, and it was so nice. So I think it would be so fast that we don't have time to wait to compile just for see the changes.
And it's very exciting that it's coming to more .NET app types as well. So now with Xamarin and WebAssembly, that's especially exciting for me because I know how much work went into making that work. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember like looking at what APIs are actually needed in the runtime to make this work, because I remember years ago this was a feature. I believe it was only for paid Visual Studio, or for the higher paid plans in Visual Studio, the edit and continue feature where you pause in the debugger, change some code, and then continue. And I was actually fascinated that in the .NET runtime you can actually add fields or members to classes. So that's something that I don't think many runtimes can actually do. So if I'm trying to do that in the Objective-C runtime, it would just look at me funny. And I believe this is also the reason why when you do things like async programming or use lambdas, the compiler in debug mode actually generates classes instead of struct, so that all these edit and continue features work. And now seeing this all wired up into a seamless developer experience, I think this is, like, on a technical level, still mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, and the interesting bit for me is also that there is a public API in the .NET framework for applying these like hot reload deltas, they call it. So if you want to play with it, you can even try to generate your own deltas for whatever you want to, and have them apply to your running application.
Definitely mind-blowing, and also like for me, like it appears like magic. Like that's what you said, edit and continue. You know how it ends up. Anytime you change something, it will be a message: this is not allowed, and that is not allowed, and you cannot do this, and you cannot do that. Okay, I can like change some number or something. But this is actually coding. Adding fields, add a new method. Wow, it's definitely mind-blowing. The demo at the build reminded me we also have, since I'm into native development as well, we had an active C++ group here in Graz. Fortunately, not so active anymore. But one of the meetups we had once was runtime compiled C++. Okay, and it was a very similar demo where you have those balls bouncing and so on, and the similar use case. Everything is already there, and it takes the time to create the scene and everything. And now I want to really start changing something. And it's amazing how they did it in C++. But when you think about all this, also it's not nearly this sophisticated. But if you think about really what is needed in the background to make it running, wow! Yeah. And for me, absolutely game changer. Like definitely from the
Even for front-end development, where yes, you have like Webpack compiling your TypeScript source code and replacing a React or Angular app. It's like, yeah, you have to use reactive stores development to make these straight transitions into the new application seamless. But the reality is like we have 10, 15, 20-year-old code, and which is not built with these modern approaches that allow you to do this. So this just works for all the code out there.
It works, yeah, for all the amazing. So this is like absolutely this AI stuff and hot reload. Wow. From the tooling, like from the tooling side.
Very interesting. The tooling stuff, I think we going more and more in the command line. I think the most tooling what I use the new Windows terminal. They have also some nice announcement that's built for the Windows terminal. And I think the most important was that I can have it as a standard command line window, Windows terminal. So I can type with start button, command, and I have the Windows terminal here, open profiles, and it's also a very nice tooling feature where my productivity goes better.
I'm actually interested. Do you know, is that a feature that they will bring to Windows 10, or will that be a Windows 11 feature?
What's this? A Windows terminal as a it's
standard.
Comes with the Windows Terminal update, the preview.
Okay.
And it's just a checkbox in the Windows Terminal, and now I can start it from everywhere. When you know it, the address bar in the Windows Explorer, I type CMD and Windows Terminal goes open. It has also a feature, it's the quake mode, where you have it so like the old DOS and Linux where everywhere upside in your monitor, you see the terminal the whole time. So there is, I think, very nice tooling for development. Thanks. Yeah.
Speaking of the terminal and also the WSL, basically using Linux commands from Windows. Yeah, I'm actually amazed at what the team does. I believe now they have GUI support by actually providing a Microsoft distro containing or the GUI rendering stuff that actually connects the Wayland protocol to other distros. So the architecture is kind of weird. And I believe in Windows 11, this Android, like running Android distributions, I think is powered by similar technology, right? So you're running Android in WSL to run your Android apps side by side. Of course, you don't have the Google Play services, so I believe that's why they partnered with Amazon. And also I believe there are some, or you mentioned there are some updates for WSL with .NET development. So I believe the development experience from Visual Studio should also be a bit better now.
I think now you can
didn't try it.
You can have it as a debugging target with WSL in core project.
That was in the last update of 2019. So it's a kind of a old stuff.
But
it's getting better and better. Definitely.
Yeah. But hopefully when we talk it, the subsystem, Android subsystem now in Windows 11, I hope that you can debug also in the subsystem. You don't have to start an emulator for Android development. Maybe Alex knows something about.
I know literally nothing about Windows 11. I only found out about the news when I watched the stream, so they really kept things pretty secret there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was a different event even. So yeah, I'm actually not sure if Windows 11 is a topic for us in .NET or not, but I'm actually quite interested in what they're doing, because I believe there is much better ARM64 support now. I'm not sure how this will translate to .NET development, but an interesting feature that they will have in Windows 11 is you can actually run ARM64 and x64 code in the same process, with them transparently switching between x64 emulation and native ARM execution. So I believe there is a special API that you can use. So the linker basically patches up all the code. So you can work with like precompiled libraries that you may get from a vendor that you don't really have any influence on, and still running on your main ARM64 app that you built for Windows. So I'm hopefully optimistic that someone will patch up the .NET runtime to also work with that. So let's see about that.
Yeah. Interesting. What else, guys? Did you like? I mean, like on all sides, from the language we didn't discuss. It's always presented like the next generation GitHub stuff, Azure, so on.
Yeah. So
what were your favorite pickups?
I mean, another favorite pickup that I have, because I'm also working with customers that use Kubernetes in-house, is that you can now deploy some Azure services to Kubernetes locally. So it's already part of this Azure Arc initiative. I believe it's called Azure Arc for Kubernetes, which allows you to basically set up or connect your Kubernetes cluster to the cloud, and then use it similar to an Azure Kubernetes service cluster. And now you can also deploy some Azure services onto that cluster. So for example, if you have Azure Functions, if you're developing like .NET Azure Functions, and they run perfectly in the cloud, and then you have to run it locally on a ship that doesn't have internet access or rarely has internet access. And you would have to rethink your applications. I cannot use these libraries. Now you can actually say, okay, I want to run Azure Functions in my local Kubernetes cluster. Please deploy Azure Functions there. And it just looks like an Azure Functions plan that you have. And you can deploy to your local cluster. So I think that's very interesting.
I think for me, one of the interesting things is the GitHub code spaces. I think it's in public preview now. At least, I mean, I have access on some of the repositories that I use, but I think it's definitely interesting how, or at least I think it will be interesting to see how this is going to be used, for example, in 5 or 10 years from now, because the potential there is, in my opinion, pretty amazing, because you can essentially run your whole development environment in the cloud without like messing around with computers or setting up your Visual Studio or installing tools or stuff like that. So I think that's actually one of the more like influential things that will be important 5 years from now.
Alex, I agree with you completely. So this is a thing I bet on. Definitely, like one of these like conceptually new, like great things. I remember there was the .NET Rocks, when they discussed with Eric Gama, who is, let's say, the brain behind the Visual Studio Code. Like when he moved to Microsoft, he was looking for a challenging project. Like they were discussing what he could do and so on. And actually, the project was, let's create a web development environment. So when they started, it was like pretty much in the future, but with Visual Studio Code already. And how it's going, I'm definitely sure that in 5 years from now, that's going to be the choice. Maybe just when we're talking about it, let me show you one example. Do you know the GitHub 1S? Do you use it? like GitHub 1S, I'll show it. It completely changed, like, let's say, my workflows, like with GitHub. And it's amazing. And that's read only. And I can only think, like when code spaces are there, forget it. That it's going to be awesome. Let me see. I have an example. Example. I don't need an example. I just need a repository.
Yes.
So here's a repository. Let me show my screen.
Yes.
Oh, you can see it already. Okay. So look at this. So this is some, I don't know, like GitHub repository. And I love reading like open source code. And usually my workflow was always, either click here and read it a bit on a GitHub, but as soon as you need a bit more better overview or navigation and so on, it gets boring. Then I have to like cloning and everything, just for the sake of literally reading from learning from the code and reading it. GitHub 1S did this, so you just put 1S here, and what you get is a Visual Studio code, running in your browser and showing you literally the code. And trust me, like if I press F11, you have no clue anymore that you're not on your local desktop. And for this, literally, I'm interested in the code. I want to learn from it. I want to read it. It's just a viewing experience so far, but it's awesome. So this already changed my workflows a lot. And when I'm thinking about the code spaces, like it's definitely something I'm looking forward to. I believe it's going to be a game changer.
And something similar to that is actually now built into one of the latest plugin updates for the GitHub extension for VS Code. So you can, I'm not sure if it's a separate extension, but it should be available to install so that you can open any GitHub repository without cloning it. So it would basically, you just paste in the URL to the repository, and it transparently in the background just fetches like the tree index and stuff like that, and then you can navigate all of the files without actually cloning it beforehand. And even stuff like go to reference and stuff like that works there. So that's like a blend between GitHub code spaces and GitHub
code
1S.
spaces and that's But these kind of things, I mean, I'm at least the kind of a person, like even if there is a slightest barrier and so on, oh, no, I'm getting lazy and I'm not going to do it. And this kind of stuff, literally, they definitely improve workflows. So anyhow, code spaces, I bet on that. Let's see 5 years from now if we will need to install Visual Studio anymore.
I mean, actually, just early this week, or was it last week? I had a discussion with some developers that we onboarded to this large project, and that even for just working on the front end, in order to like do stuff with the backend, you need to run a lot of containers and so on, and that's why for working on this project we have like a minimum spec for the laptops or computers that we used to work with, and we were just unable to run this project because the computer didn't have enough RAM and so on. And they said, they ordered better machines in April, but due to the shortages, you can't really get new hardware. In some countries, in some other countries, they of course you get the hardware for a higher price. It's just prioritization. So even having something like that as an option is good. In our case, it didn't really work because there were some dependencies on the setup that we needed.
Because speaking of that, when I was playing with Rosalind a bit and so on, you can compile it on a local machine. It's going to work, but if you want to start tests and so on, it's really you need a beefy machine. But you needed this 30 minutes per week when you have time, and like set up a VM, and then just for that, so you have a Visual Studio with Rosalind inside. Yeah, okay, I did it. But this kind of experience, I open my project and I simply say, like, give me a super powerful machine, or I don't have to say it. The thing will recognize on its own in the background what it needs for a build or in general to work. It's definitely going to be a game changer. Yeah.
And maybe not install the C++ development tools for Windows, which is also a multi-gigabyte download. So if something like that works, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
So, actually, something else that I wanted to share, because I recently found out about it, is I don't think it was announced at Build, or there was a session about it, but there is, I'll post a link, a new framework called Reactive, which is basically actually, if you know Bart Smith and the team that actually built ASIC Await and RX, there's actually a framework that was used internally at Microsoft to power things like Bing Search or Bing Intelligence and Cortana applications, which is used to build like standing distributed reactive queries and stream processing. So if you say like I have this RX filter, so like take events from there, process them, wait for 3 days, and then do that. That's something that this framework allows, and I'm actually happy to look at it further. I'm not sure I'm currently the right person to explain how it works internally. But they're also looking to maybe work with the C# team to build more features into Lambda expressions, or actually the expression syntax, because like you can't really use a lot of the new C# syntaxes in expressions. Which is like okay-ish if you need to just translate it to database query. But if you're now doing something like, yes, and I have this RX query, I want to submit it to a server, maybe you want to have more expressive
language features.
Yeah. So that's also something interesting. And apparently this has been developed at Microsoft internally for years now. And the team, I believe, is very, very happy that they were able to open source all these components now.
Cool. I think it's like a reactive programming for the distributed vertex. Still, I didn't open it. I'll take a look afterwards. Cool. Yeah.
So
also, this is
yeah.
Yeah. Please.
Yeah, I was actually just trying to ask you, since that was talking about expression at lambdas, I think there was also some changes to lambdas in C# 10, right?
Yeah, and actually, this is what I wanted to say to reflect when you mentioned so a serious big project coming with additional needs, like needs on the language. So this is also really awesome. So in general, the question how the language evolves and in which direction goes. Maybe we can also address that topic a bit, like the C# 10, where like I still have like mixed feeling about the C# development. On one side, I'm happy. I think the guys have things under control. They know what they want to do with the language, but still this space. Okay, let's ship something every year. How serious can it be? But I hope it will not end up in having a language that gets more and more syntax sugar, but really a language which will also start gaining also additional substantial features. What was shown at Build, don't make me wrong, I'm all for that. Like I will show a couple of features which I love them, but they are those syntax sugar kind of features. And I remember a Build from 2018, when they were talking about the views and other stuff, which are like conceptually powerful features, which are not there at the moment. Let's say, so I'm hoping to see also at least every second year, every second year coming something which is like conceptually big. And also, but in general, the fact that they're listening to the community and see what actually community needs and direct the features that way, that's something definitely I definitely appreciate. And also, you can see the overall direction. For example, was the C# 9, the source generators and so on, how they fit in the AOT stuff and everything. So it's clearly that it's not driven by, let's add a feature to the language. Like there is an idea plan behind it. And maybe speaking of it, I can show a few things for the C# 10. At least those that work. So this I can actually show. I can actually show already. Let me share the screen. And you should be able to see it. One of the things, maybe a bad old console app, something I was hoping for since C# 9 with the top level statements, that the template will be changed. So when you create a new, like just a new console app, the template is still the bad old console app, which looks like this, like with all the clutter and so on.
Yeah.
I hope if anybody's seeing Alex, pull some connections there, because what I want to see in the future when somebody really creates a new console app, that this console app literally looks like this, right line hello world, because there is no need to look any more complex. Where the magic comes from, two things. One is the old one, C# 9, top level statements. I can just start writing code, but a year ago usings were still needed. And there is a neat thing now called global usings, and it definitely removes the clutters.
So I could just ask you to zoom in a little bit.
Yeah. So what's the idea by putting the keyword global before the using? This using becomes available within the whole project. And you can literally put all of those standard usings and so on a single place. And if you think I was examining the feature, I went already through the, those typical files we have in the projects, and you know how it is. On the very top, you have this endless list of usings. So I find the feature really useful, exactly that, removing clutter. Once you do it, the files which are in the project simply picks it up, the usings, and what also everything you could do, the usings works with global usings as well, like statics and so on. A neat thing, something I still somehow miss in C#, this type def kind of stuff from C++. Okay, I want to put the name, my own, to something, and you can do it with usings, like global using print system console, and then you can everywhere use print instead of a system console, but within a project, which is fine. But it's, of course, it's not nearly that powerful as the C++ one. One of the things I would love to have are those, I read only collection of T la la la, because I need, like, call it nicely I materializer of T, and I want to have it everywhere. That's still not possible. But this is a feature which already works in the preview. So it's neat. I want to show a couple of features which do not work.
Yes.
And
actually, I know exactly what you mean with these usings that you want to find. I'm usually in situations when I want to have like a long generic stuff that I use all the time, like dictionary from string to person, or from comparable something to something. It's like, okay, yeah, that like person lookup dictionary type, new person lookup dictionary. It's like a shorthand, but
it's annoying. Yeah, the type defs. Type defs are one of the features which would be definitely nice to have. And this is a kind of misusing global usings to an extent. But in general, it removes the clutter, and also coming to this, Martin, what you said, for teaching purposes, especially if you're talking about teaching the language from the beginning. This now, I can even remove the lines, so it looks like all those, Python kind of hello world programs when you have print something and that's it. Yeah. Another one thing, let me just show you. I have it to think. Have it somewhere. Yep. Oh yeah. This was actually, I just took a screenshot from the video. Actually, some of the things which are planned, and my opinions on them. So one is this, which we discussed, like the global using. Okay, you can put them anywhere. So wherever you put them, the best practices will emerge. I already start using this, using.cs, and I know that my usings are there. The other one interesting thing is, as Matt said, this removes this vertical clutter, and this type scope namespaces. Look at this. So I have a namespace here, but there are no brackets. What's the meaning of it?
Okay.
It's very simple. Everything below it is within this namespace, So there is no need, to indent on one level, which was always there. Again, syntax
less
sugar.
unused white space.
Yeah, less unused white space. That's something I am always like definitely for that. As I said, as long as it does not end up in getting only these kind of stuffs over time. Yeah. Second thing, this was promised already before, so there is no surprises here. I was a bit disappointed that it was not in C#9, but that's again this philosophy. Let's develop the features, like gradually. Okay, records are there, but I can have struct records like positional records and so on. That's now implemented. So if you want to have a struct, yeah, for performance reasons or whatever, but still use this nice compact record syntax and so on, this works now. Yeah, there are some enhancements on the properties, but I will skip this one because we are already 7:20. One I want to address is this because it is a feature. Actually, I was hoping for a similar feature, but they made it much better than I thought. So what's the idea? I have a property, and actually let me tell you what's the issue I had before with properties. If there is anything you want to do within a field, no matter how slight it be, you need a backing field. Okay, and the amount of bugs I've seen coming from that, somewhere in the code, somebody is not calling the property but the backing field directly, or other way around, simply not knowing, am I supposed to always call the property and not the backing field and so on? But the feature I was hoping for quite some time was the local fields in properties. If you can just imagine the idea. So I can put within a property, I can put some fields, constants, whatever, but they're visible only within a property. Just to get rid of these bugs, to clearly communicate you can't use it. And what they did is something even better. So you have a property with all possible combinations. For example, you want to get a generated get. That's fine, the typical one. But for example, in the setter, you want to do something. With the field, with the values you want to put in, and you got a keyword called field, which is actually the access to the backing field. It's a contextual keyword only within the properties, and for me, it's definitely one of the features I see as very useful. First of all, if I really have to do some tiny thing with the property, only with a part of it and so on, there is no need for backing field. Literally, I have it. So as soon as I type this field, I know I'm going to get it. I have access to it. It's possible to use it in getter and setter and so on. I find it as very useful. Still, I see use cases for these local property values,
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, I know the feeling like every time you want to add something like that you have to, oh no, I have to refactor my property.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then you have to use a recent Visual Studio version, or you had this resharper refactoring, like convert to backing field, and then you lose the encapsulation. So this feature gives you the encapsulation. And so that's really important. And actually, I believe we have a comment about this requirement, required. So Ashware says, required properties, awesome. Helps me out tremendously with nullability without constructors.
Yeah, I skipped them. It's simply because of the time reasons. But yes, I see it also. So what is it about? Again, if you think about the C#9, like with the init properties and so on, they're very convenient to use, absolutely. But there are things, again, if you want to be able to do them, to express them, you were supposed to write code. And one of them was a typical thing: a certain property has to be in the init within the init properties. You have to write a custom code. And required is a keyword which simply does that. The compiler will not allow the init block, property initialization block, in which a required property is not listed and set. Yeah. And speaking of the nullability, there are also some syntax sugar coming. So nice, where you can get the null checks generated by the compiler and so on. But it's for me, it's interesting in general how properties evolved over time. Like it's a simple concept, on the IL level, they exist and they changed and remain for 20 years. And on the language level, a lot of things happened. Yeah. Maybe to my general remark, most of these things are, let's say, syntax sugar and other record stacks. But this is and it's more about writing less code and so on. Perfect. But this one is one of those where you have where you get, you have to write less code, but it's more robust. Encapsulation is there, nobody can miss with the backing field and so on. And I've seen plenty of bugs coming from that area. Yeah. Can't wait until November. So, Flashware, yeah. Feel free to install Visual Studio 2020. We have a new project starting right now, and I'm really tempted to say, guys, anyhow, till November, it's a short time period. We have to start it, C# 10 and Visual Studio 2020 and the latest preview of .NET 6. We are on a safe path. Good. So much about
my experience with previous was very good, actually.
And you can install Visual Studio side by side, so there's really no risk to trying it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so
good. So 7:30
do you
already.
have some more topics that we want to go over?
I'll do or
any viewer questions? You've got Alex and Igor.
no.
So then I'd say with it's getting late already, so I believe we can slowly wrap up. So Raul, I will hand over back to you and
thank you.
your slides.
So, thank you, Alex, Igor, and Martin, for the nice talk this evening. And hopefully my PowerPoint. Also, thank you all and all our visitors who watched our stream today. And thank you for joining. Yes. Then thank you to our sponsors in OVS Software Services, T2 Everywhere, Microsoft, Rubicon, and JetBrains. Very thank you to all. With our sponsors, we were not possible to pay the stream and anything else. And hopefully, we have in the winter time we can meet in person. So we have pizza and beer again at the good old Meetup times. Does anybody remember these times when we meet in person? And so our sponsors sponsor these events when we can meet in person. So we are always looking for sponsors. If you or your company want to sponsor us, please feel free to contact us, talk with us. We have a general information site of our website at .netdev.at/sponsoring. You find our sponsoring agreements for the .NET Devs. And yeah, we always need new sponsors. And we already planned the next meetup in July. We have a meetup with Brandon Minnick, who tell us more about .NET MAUI. Martin, did we have a concrete date? I don't know. So it will be June.
I believe so, but I don't have it at hand.
Okay. So I think we will
make sure you follow the meetup groups.
Yeah. So we have to. July is in 2 days, so we have to post the meetup in the next days, I hope. So and please spread the word. Invite your colleagues, invite your friends, customers. Tweet about us so more people, more interesting talks we can find, and invite everybody who has do something with .NET. So yeah, more people, more interesting talks, and when we meet in person, it's always nice to see new people. And so where do you find us when you have to spread the word for us? So at our website, .netdev.at, we we are on Twitter. We are also on Twitch and YouTube, where you can watch us currently. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we have a Slack channel where you can talk with us, ask a question about .NET, and there's the community in Austria, so we can change and interact when you have problems and some things similar you want to talk. So, and as we know, we want to get better, so we want to hear about your feedback. We have a small forms where you can give us feedback about the meetup today. And so, thank you everybody, and have a nice evening, and bye the rest.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.